Welcome to AskYI, HearYI. Let's share stories inspired by the hexagrams together.
Today, we're diving into something I think, well, almost everyone grapples with at some point.
Oh yeah, what's that?
At a really tricky situation. The silent crush. Specifically, the fear around confessing feelings to a friend.
Ah, yes. That agonizing moment. Do I say something and risk ruining a perfectly good friendship, or do I stay quiet and maybe miss out entirely?
Exactly that crossroads.
Yeah.
We're looking at a specific story shared by someone we're calling Judy. She was really wrestling with this, deeply stuck between keeping things safe and comfortable or, taking that leap for something potentially more.
And she turned to a kind of ancient decision-making tool to get some clarity right. That's the core of our deep dive today, using that framework to understand her emotional tug-of-war.
Right, Judy has this long-term crush on a friend. The sources describe their interactions as really natural, very sweet. There's this feeling, this possibility that maybe, just maybe, the feelings are mutual.
So there's a foundation there, which ironically is often the biggest hurdle.
It really is. Her big question was essentially, if I confess, am I going to just detonate this great dynamic we have? Versus, but if I wait for him, what if he never makes a move? What if I lose the chance?
It's that classic tension, safety and the comfort of ambiguity versus the fear of missing out, that feeling of, is this my window?
And the source material frames it beautifully, that tension between staying safe in the unknown versus the potential reward and risk of knowing. So Judy, actually encouraged by her friend Christine, decided to draw a hexagram.
Okay, so what was her specific question when she did that?
She asked very directly, should I confess my feelings to my long-term friend, or is it better to just maintain the current ambiguity? Should I wait?
And the result, what did the reading indicate?
The reading she received was the hexagram completion changing into the hexagram Great Taming. It was a specific sequence, 7, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6.
Completion changing to Great Taming. So those two concepts sort of map out her present situation and the suggested path forward.
Precisely. They offer a lens on the now and the next.
Before we break those down, what was the headline, the main takeaway message for Judy from this reading?
It was actually quite simple but powerful. The core message was basically, look, it's not that there's no chance here, far from it. You just don't need to rush to say it.
Interesting. So not a no, but a not yet.
Exactly. And the deeper idea, the sources really emphasize this, was that patience in this specific situation is actually the deeper, more strategic form of showing affection.
Patience as affection. That definitely pushes against the usual advice of carpe diem. Just tell them, right?
It does. The framework strongly warns against what it colorfully calls an impulsive, explosive confession. The big dramatic reveal.
The movie moment, which often doesn't end like the movies.
Often not. The recommended path instead was described as cautious, gradual, prepared, and risk-checked. It acknowledges the opportunity is there, it's real, but realizing it successfully depends entirely on managing the variables and not squandering the advantage she already has.
So rushing is seen as introducing instability.
Exactly. The quickest way to potentially destabilize a good thing.
Okay, let's get into those two core concepts then. Starting with the present state. Completion. What does that signify about Judy's current friendship?
Completion points to what the sources call an achieved situation. This is really key. It means Judy isn't starting from scratch.
Okay.
There's already a basis, a real foundation. That agreeable ambiguity they have, that's part of this achieved situation. It means she's right to sense there's potential for success if she acts now. The groundwork is laid.
But if the groundwork is there and the potential is there, why the strong advice to wait? What's the catch with completion?
Well, the catch is that completion often represents a peak state, a point of maximum stability that paradoxically makes it inherently fragile, like a perfectly balanced structure.
Okay, easily tipped over.
Precisely. And the immediate warning tied to completion in the sources is quite stark. The achieved situation still needs to guard against sudden changes. A confession, an emotional revelation like that, it's like an earthquake. It will change the balance.
Right. No going back once the words are out?
None. And that shift could lead them closer together. Maybe they step forward mutually, or it could trigger that awkwardness, that sort of mutual pulling away. The friendship cools down.
So Judy's initial fear, the one that prompted the question, is actually validated by this first part of the reading. The risk is real because the current situation is pretty good.
Absolutely. The stakes are high because what she has now is valuable.
Okay, so that's completion, the now. Fragile but established. The reading then points towards a development, a future state. Great taming. What's the essence of that? What should she focus on?
Great taming is all about fundamentally two things: accumulation and nurturing.
Accumulation and nurturing. So like saving up and taking care.
Kind of, yeah. It advises her to, let's say, retain her energy. Don't spend it all on one big gesture. Instead, slowly build a connection, nurture what's already there, and wait for the truly right moment, the high probability opening.
So where does she direct that energy, if not towards planning the big confession?
The focus shifts inwards and towards the quality of their interactions. It's less about the outcome of the confession and more about building the substance of the relationship.
Okay, so less obsessing over the perfect words to say.
Right.
And more about what? Improving herself, making the shared time better.
Exactly that. Focus on your own emotional stability, your own growth, making your life and your presence genuinely attractive and steady. The goal shifts from just getting the confession over with to solidifying the base.
So you build the reality of the connection so strongly.
That the eventual declaration becomes less of a risky leap and more like just a natural confirmation of what's already been built between you.
It's about playing the long game then, not exhausting that initial advantage, that completion energy too soon.
Precisely. It encourages that long-term vision.
Now, the sources apparently get really practical here, moving from these concepts to a kind of step-by-step strategy, breaking it down into stages.
Yes, it offers a 4-stage analysis, which is incredibly helpful. It essentially provides a timeline for action and caution based on the kind of energy flowing in the relationship at different points.
Okay, let's walk through those. What's stage one?
Stage 1 is the beginning. It's described with a phrase that translates something like, strong bones run freely, or strong bones run freely. Sounds positive. What does that look like in this context?
It signifies a period of real confidence, where interactions feel effortless, positive, and smooth. Things are just clicking easily between them.
And the advice during this easy phase?
Leverage it. Use this strong period to actively create more shared experiences. Maybe bring common friends into the mix initially. Plan specific activities together. Show your genuine charm, your competence, your best self.
But, and this seems crucial, still hold back on the confession, right? Even when things feel great.
Yes, absolutely. You're strengthening the foundation, making it wider and deeper. You're not ready to, put the roof on yet.
Got it. Foundation work. Then comes stage 2. Stage 2 is the development phase. The source describes this as future scene sees glory, or Nico reach.
Future scene sees glory. Okay, sounds promising. What are the signs Judy should look for here? How does she know she's entering this phase?
This is when you start seeing tangible signs of warming up. Maybe more explicit gestures of care, more intense or prolonged eye contact. Perhaps conversations shift towards future plans, personal vulnerabilities, things that signal deeper trust.
You start to glimpse a possible shared future.
Exactly. You see potential possibilities opening up.
And this is the moment for some kind of action. Still cautious, I'm guessing.
Yes, cautious action. The advice here is that this is the time for some light probing. The sources suggest tentatively expressing liking.
Tentatively expressing liking. How? What does that mean practically?
It could mean using language that's a bit more direct than before, but still not, shocking or putting them on the spot. Maybe discussing how much you value the security and comfort of your connection with them, or sharing some of your own ideals about relationships. Testing the waters.
And watching the reaction very closely.
Very closely. If the response is enthusiastic, if they lean in, reciprocate in some way, that's your green light. That signals it's likely safe to move forward, perhaps more explicitly.
Okay, that makes sense. But then comes the tricky part. Stage 3 seems to directly address Judy's original fear, the potential downside.
Right. Stage 3 is the mid-course hurdle. It's described vividly as body stuck in a broken road full of thorns, or Mivi show.
Ouch. A broken road full of thorns. That sounds bad.
It represents that potential for obstacles, things getting suddenly difficult, maybe communication drops off, misunderstandings pop up, there's unexpected coldness or distance.
Scheduled plans get canceled last minute, maybe jokes fall flat, that kind of feeling.
Exactly. That sense that something is off, the flow is disrupted.
And if Judy were to confess during this phase,
that's the highest risk scenario. The tension or difficulty is already present. Throwing a big emotional confession into that mix is the most likely way to trigger the negative outcome, the friendship ending, or its intense, prolonged awkwardness. The situation is fragile here.
So if she detects these thorny patches, these signs of difficulty, what's the immediate
The
advice?
sources are very clear. Immediately slow down. Halt any forward momentum towards confession.
Hit the brakes.
Hard. Avoid impulsive actions born out of anxiety. This phase is about damage control, observation, maybe gentle repair if possible. Focus on managing your own emotional expectations and just try to guide the interaction back to a safer, even if slower, rhythm. Don't push.
Okay. Weather the storm, basically. And then there's a stage 4, after the thorns.
Yes, stage 4 is moving forward. The description is, though dark, soon bright, see the true master, or
Though dark, soon bright. So there's hope after the difficult patch.
definitely. It suggests that after navigating a low point or a period where you had to pull back, clarity will eventually emerge. A turning point will come.
And the advice here is it go for it now.
Not necessarily go for it immediately, but the core advice remains consistent. Keep building patiently. Maintain that internal patience. Continue your own growth. The idea is if you handled the difficult stage 3 with maturity and stability without freaking out or forcing things.
Then the future opportunity, when it does arise, will be built on a much stronger, more resilient foundation.
Exactly. It'll be more durable because you've both weathered something.
Okay, so pulling this all together, the entire reading completion changing to Great Taming and these 4 stages, it seems to strongly guide Judy and anyone in her shoes towards that lower risk, long-term accumulation path. It steers away from the quick, potentially high reward, but also high risk confession.
That's the clear direction, yes. Less focus on the single event of confession, more focus on the process of building.
So what are the really concrete, practical takeaways from this analysis? What should someone actually do?
Well, the sources offer a few key recommendations. First, and this might sound a bit negative, but it's crucial, prepare for the worst-case scenario.
Plan for rejection.
Essentially, yes. Visualize it. Think through. If the answer is no, or if the friendship does cool off, how will you handle it? What steps will you take to manage your own feelings and the dynamic? Having a strategy beforehand actually reduces anxiety and makes you feel more in control, whatever happens.
Okay, that makes sense. Preparation reduces fear. What else?
Second, embrace the idea of a staged confession. This goes beyond just that initial light probing in stage 2.
Stage confession, like revealing things bit by bit.
Exactly. Instead of one big reveal, test the waters through a series of smaller, escalating low-stakes disclosures before any formal declaration.
Can you give an example? Sure.
Maybe you start by discussing your general values about commitment or relationships. Then perhaps share some deeper personal dreams or fears. You could even ask their opinion on a tricky relationship situation a mutual friend is going through, just to see how they think.
So you're giving them chances to process and react gradually without the pressure of a direct personal confession right away.
Precisely. It lowers the shock factor significantly and lets you gauge their receptiveness incrementally.
And the third recommendation.
It ties back to Great Taming. Focus on self-growth. Make your own life fulfilling and attractive. Develop your own stability and interests. It sounds cliché, maybe, but being a well-rounded, secure person is inherently attractive and also makes you more resilient, regardless of the outcome.
Become the kind of person someone would want to build a future with, rather than just focusing on how to ask them.
You got it. The sources apparently used a couple of brief examples, contrasting 2 friends, let's call them friend A and friend C, to really hammer this home.
Okay, how did their stories differ?
Well, friend C represents the cautionary tale. They felt that completion energy, that sense of maybe this is the moment, but they chose the impulsive, explosive route.
The grand gesture.
The grandest.
Yeah.
They confessed very loudly and publicly at a mutual friend's party. Big spotlight moment.
Oh, no. How did that go?
Predictably badly. The sudden pressure, the public scrutiny, it completely overwhelmed the friend. It led to embarrassment, awkwardness, and an almost immediate, irreversible cooling of the friendship. Gone. Destroyed by the method and the timing.
Wow. Okay, so that's the don't. What about friend A?
Friend A also felt that same completion energy, that potential. But they chose the Great Taming path accumulation.
How did they do that?
They started by subtly shifting the dynamic. Invited the friend to more consistent one-on-one time, moving gradually from group hangs to specific shared activities they both enjoyed, like visiting museums or taking a cooking class together.
Building shared history, quietly?
Exactly. Demonstrating quiet, consistent care, reliability, and enjoyment of their specific company. Only after this pattern of mutual engagement felt stable and normalized, then friend A made the confession.
And
And it was successful. Because the declaration wasn't a shock. It was more like simply naming the reality they had patiently, deliberately built together.
That's a powerful contrast. The method really matters.
Hugely. So the ultimate recommendation coming out of this analysis for Judy and for anyone listening who resonates with this dilemma is, yes, leverage the stability and connection you already have. That's the completion part. But use patience, prudence, and a focus on improving the quality of the relationship as your main strategy moving forward. That's the great taming part.
It's the difference between demanding a relationship versus quietly, patiently building one until it feels almost undeniable.
Beautifully put. That's the essence of it.
This has been really insightful, walking through that framework, completion to great taming, the stages. It brings a lot of structure to what feels like a purely chaotic emotional decision. Thank you.
My pleasure. It's a common struggle, and having a framework can hopefully provide some steady ground.
It really makes you think when we're facing these critical life choices, especially emotional ones, there's often this intense pressure, internal or external, to just do something, to get an answer now.
The urgency can feel overwhelming.
But this whole analysis suggests that maybe, just maybe, the most powerful move isn't the immediate one. How often might the real path to success lie not in that quick action, but in the slower, deliberate, patient act of accumulating strength, understanding, and connection before you finally speak?
That's definitely something to mull over.
Thanks for listening to AskYI, HearYI. We'll be back next time to talk about more stories from other friends.